Hello, everybody. Today we're going to look at a very special chart. This is a really great example of the difference between ancient and modern astrology and just how incredibly stark it is and how much more you can see with the Babylonian chart, especially using the system that I use, which was programmed by Rumen Kolev himself, who is basically responsible for everything that I know and everything that I do. When I found him, it was like the biggest shift in my philosophical life ever. It was fantastic. But anyway, we're going to have a look at this. First, I'm going to show you a tropical chart. So the way you would get it in Solar Fire, or I use Astro app on my phone. I bought it years and years ago. So I still have that, which is nice to be able to compare. And then we're going to look at it in the Babylonian way, which is in terms of analyzing the real sky, as accurate as you can be in terms of knowing all the details of the actual sky. It's very, very intense stuff. I will say before I jump into this, if you would like to book a session with me, I have great reports using that breakdown this ancient Babylonian science. They're $50 each. My favorite two are the fixed stars and the I think I called it your destiny, your life purpose, or the main events of your life, which is using this ancient predictive technique, which is the most advanced predictive technique and essentially the basis of most other predictive techniques in astrology. It's the fundamental. The $50, they're written out really nicely, and they are basically little pieces of the most accurate techniques that I use. So there'll be links to those down in the description. You can check them out. They're really, really, really awesome. I love doing them. I absolutely love doing them. There's so much content in them. And having said all of that, let's jump into these charts. So I won't tell you who this chart is of. Let's hold on a sec. Voila. Here we are, and here I am. So I won't tell you who this is a chart of. You can't see this is the name of a place. But I will tell you, this is an extremely famous person. Extremely famous person. This is how my teacher taught me. We did exercises where you have to look at, first of all, he gives you 8 charts or something, or sometimes even more than that. And he says, I want you to find the chart with a woman who has, I think he says something like 4 children and a happy marriage, and a chart with a woman who has no children. And then I want you to find the chart of the guy who is extremely famous. And I can't remember. And then there were some other charts of a guy who's in prison and a guy who's obviously not in prison, stuff like that. So, and you can do it. There was only one of those where I got it wrong, which was the extremely famous person, which was interesting. There was a technique that I didn't know of yet, which was super powerful learning for me actually in that experience. So we'll go through this. It's really, really fascinating, all of this stuff. So we've got here Astro Gold for this chart. So what do we see? All right, Ascendant in Virgo, Saturn in the 2nd house, Mars in the 3rd house, Sun and Mercury retrograde in the 5th, Moon in the 7th, Venus in the 6th, and Jupiter in the 7th as well. So can you tell that this guy is extremely famous from this chart? If you say you can, you must be insane. There are, only if you know some very niche ancient astrology, then you actually could, from this chart, you could get an idea, a piece, get a piece. You could definitely get a piece, and you could say this guy will be very powerful at some point in his life, or have some very significant influence over the world. And that's because of this waxing moon here, making the conjunction with Jupiter. Now, this is an ancient thing. If the waxing moon conjoins to Jupiter in an angle, it's a very good sign. It's very powerful, especially in a day birth. This is very, very powerful. But again, this isn't enough. This is something, it's powerful for sure. You know, he'll have good luck and he'll have a very significant, lovely married life and life with relationship to his mother as well. However, there will be some misfortunes here because this is the 7th house, you know, and this is me using ancient astrology to analyze this chart as well. This is not psychological. This is not modern astrology in any stretch of the imagination. I'm using the same astrology both times. Look, we have Pluto on the meridians, so, you know, with Neptune, so there's some vagueness of direction in his life, I guess. Does that matter? I really don't know. I mean, maybe if he wants validation, this guy's dead, so he doesn't. Sun in the 5th, yeah, this is powerful, creativity, but then again, 1 in every 12 people will have Sun in the 5th. So it's not special. Mercury retrograde. This is really, really interesting. If you're in modern astrology, you will say, this guy will have problems with learning. He won't be able to write very well. He will have troubles with communication and things like that. And yeah, in a certain way, I'm listening to his life story at the moment, and from what I gather so far, he's a bit of an introverted guy who communicates in a strange fashion, a slightly unorthodox way, but it's nothing that a Mercury retrograde can tell you. You know, you can't look at it and be, oh, Mercury retrograde, this is what it means. You can't see that. Because, and the reason I say this Mercury retrograde is really dumb, way to, you know, this modern idea of Mercury retrograde is really, really stupid, is because this guy is, I believe, he was a professor his entire life, a university professor for his entire life, highly intelligent, very clear, very concise, very accurate with communication, you know. Also, if I'm using ancient astrology, the ancient doctrine, Venus in the 6th is terrible unless it makes a trine with the MC. This is the noon point. This is the midday line. And look, it does by terms, it's about 5 degrees. Yeah, 5-degree trine to the MC. So Venus then becomes more powerful, more active, and means that this guy can actually have a happy love life. Whereas Venus in the 6th, normally, no way, Jose. Massive scandals, massive problems, a lot, you know. Sometimes it even says, you know, his wife will be a slave or a whore, or at least of lower status than he is. And she will cause him many loss of reputation, basically. Saturn in the 2nd. Okay, this we can get a little more clear. He probably has poor conditions. He lives in poor conditions, you know, not much income, not much money. What else? Mars in the 3rd. This is not a huge problem because this is a nighttime chart. See the sun. So, okay, nighttime and daytime charts. This is also something I need to explain. Holy shit, so many basics. This is the horizon. 1st house and 7th house is the horizon. If the sun is above the horizon, it's a day chart. If it's below the horizon, it's a night chart, more or less. It's not 100% true, but it's 99% of the time this is the case. Okay. All right, so we've got some interesting little analysis here. Now I will show you the Babylonian chart. Okay. So immediately we have the sign of Regulus on the ascendant. So we know he will be successful. He will have success with what he's doing. We have Aldebaran on the meridian, or close to the meridian. So he will, it's not super close, so it diminishes its power massively, but nevertheless, he will be supplied for during his life. His material needs, he will not go wanting because of Aldebaran. And also the horns of Taurus here. So he is a spiritual guy. This is one sign of his spirituality. We also have this, so remember this is a nighttime chart. These arcs are the arcs of the horizon. Okay, so this is, see how much clearer this is? We can see what's on the whole horizon totally accurately. And what do we see on the descendant here is this star Alpheratz, which is of Andromeda. And at night, in a night chart, this star gives scholars and people who are highly intellectual, professors. What did I tell you? That's what this guy is, a professor. So we know from this chart, he's a scholar. We know already just from this one piece, he's a professor or a scholar of some sort. You know, he's an academic. Let's put it that way. He's an academic of some sort. A successful one too. Regulus is here. What else do we have? The moon is here. That's actually, you know what? I will zoom in on all of these points for all of you. Okay, so we have the moon here. Let's see. So here's the descendant arc. Well, sorry. Going like this, and there's Alpheratz there, right on it, right here in the top left corner of the name is the star, Alpheratz. Okay, so exact conjunction with the descendant, which you can never see from a modern chart. Here, the moon, if you look at the modern chart, the moon is below the horizon. But this is not the case for the true sky. The moon has not yet set. It's still above the horizon. You see this arc here, right? The moon's just on top of it. This little funny circle that's above it, okay? The moon is also with Fomalhaut, which is the star of artistic spirituality, divine inspiration. So anytime you see a royal star close to the sun, the moon, the ascendant, the MC, the descendant, very powerful omen immediately. Ding, 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 ding. You got big bells going off. This is powerful destiny, okay? And not only is Fomalhaut with the moon, it's also close to the descendant by about 3 degrees, and by the moon, about 1 degree. So definitely this guy is very spiritual and very creative. We know now. Fomalhaut, so he's a scholar, he's a creative, and he's very spiritual. So this, I will actually, it's probably better if I unveil the details piece by piece. So he is a successful scholar here. He is provided for, more or less, for his whole life. He never is in terrible poverty, I don't think. Maybe at some point, but for the most part, he's provided for. He's a scholar. This is true. He's an academic. This guy was a very successful, well, not very successful as a professor, but he was a professor, you know, and worked that way for his whole life, more or less. And he is a very devout Catholic, or was a very devout Catholic. And we see that from these spiritual stars and also the horns of Taurus. Spiritual stars here, his spirituality, his religiosity even, which is doesn't necessarily mean in the modern times that people will be Catholic or Christian because of these stars, but they will be spiritually inclined. Also, Jupiter is in a powerful house, the 7th house, and in the divine degree of Aquarius, the waters of Aquarius. Here, where he's pouring on the exactly, like pretty much exact conjunction here. So this is another omen that whoever this fellow, my friend, hopefully I wish he was my friend, gets divine inspiration directly from God. It comes directly from the source, creative, artistic inspiration. It comes straight in. And it will also have something to do with his marriage and his wife. And this is absolutely the case. So he's a very spiritual, this guy is an artist of the light, an artist of God. We know that now, okay? An artist sent from heaven to help humanity. Also, look at Mercury. Okay, it says retrograde, but look, red letters, MF4, heliacal phase. Okay, so this heliacal phase, so he's been very close to the sun. Here's the sun. Mercury was moving retrograde, so in front of so your Earth, this is the sun, this is Mercury. Mercury is moving in front of the sun, and when it's here, you can't see it anywhere in the sky. At night, you know. But when it moves just enough, it becomes visible in the morning because it rises before the sun is too bright, you know, so you can see it briefly. This is very, very, very powerful, very, very important to know and understand about the planets, is these phases. And the morning star Mercury is again artistic and creative, right? It's about divine inspiration and sometimes even prophecy, actually. But this is more about creativity, art, you know, writing stories and books. These are people who will never feel satisfied and comfortable in their life unless they are creating, you know, writing books or making paintings or using their creative gift that Apollo gave them. And this is in the 5th house of his legacy and his children. Interesting. This is very, very interesting point. It's in the house of children, house of his legacy, and making a trine with the ascendant. And so is the sun. Okay. Now, this guy is a famous writer, one of the most famous writers of our time. And he only became famous, well, I mean, he became famous before he died, but in his old age, and then mostly after death, most powerfully after death, after he died, which is what the 5th house is. It's your legacy after you die. Okay. And he wrote these books for his children. 5th house. Or initially they were for his children, and then they were published, edited and published. Okay. And this is, so we have all of these powerful signs in this chart that tell us also, again, as I said before, the moon in exact conjunction with the descendant like this is very powerful. If a planet or star is right on an angle, maximum power, super, super strong. This is also a waxing moon, which increases its power, and it's in between Venus and Jupiter. So very, very positive. And this guy had a very significant positive relationship with his mother, which essentially formed all of the things that he left behind on Earth, the great works that he left behind on Earth. And the moon, as I said before, waxing to Jupiter is one of the signs of a great destiny, but even more important, the moon waxing with a royal star in an angle, very powerful. If this was Regulus, the ancients say this gives the king of the world, an emperor of the world. This is not Regulus, it's Fomalhaut, so it's different, much less powerful, and it's the 7th house, so this happens in his old age. So I know from looking at this chart, this guy will exert massive influence over the whole world in his old age and after he dies. So who is this fellow? Let's, okay, still figuring out how to use this Zoom thing, but that worked pretty well. This guy is my good friend, I wish, J.R.R. Tolkien. who wrote The Lord of the Rings, which essentially shaped the entire modern fantasy genre, whether it's movies or fiction books, all of it. Massive, massive influence over the whole world, essentially, as far as I'm concerned. And of course, keep in mind when the ancients talk about the whole world, the emperor of the world, they mean more like the known world or the world close, like Alexander the Great conquering many, many, many places. This was like a king of the world, to them. Yeah. So here we are, J.R.R. Tolkien. Very interesting analysis. And, I'll go even deeper. We're going to dive heckin' deep right now into some predictions. So this is interesting. His father died when he was 4 years old. So we will find when this happened. His mother then died when he was 12. We can also find when this happened. Okay. So, and there will be many signs, I'm sure, but I'm going to use primary directions in the true sense, meaning that we're going to move the whole chart. We're going to look at how the whole sky changes over the time after he was born. And we change it. 1 minute is 1 year of life. Okay. So let's have a look. So his father died around the age of 4. So we go 2 years ahead, 4 years ahead. Okay. And maybe we can add a few months. I don't actually know the exact date, which is a shame, but we could probably add a couple of months, make it a bit rounded up. Look what happens in the chart. The moon, hold on. The moon, which was directly on the descendant before, is now fully below the horizon. So the moon set on his 4th year of life. And this is what the ancients say about the 7th house, that it gives good things. If a benefic is there, it gives a good old age and good things, but they will lose something on the way. Like Jupiter in the 7th house, it gives a lovely wife or husband, but they will die. The moon here is actually his father, or is taking the form of his father. And this is because of some other events that are happening astrologically here. He has some parallels between Mars and the sun, okay, which of course flavor this event of the moon disappearing fully below the horizon. It has to be quite far below the horizon before it fully disappears. You can see, I will turn off the planets and show you the 2D. These rings here is where the moon's body fully is here, okay? So it's fully, the whole circle is fully below the horizon at this year of life, where his father died. Okay, let's keep going to the age of 12 when his mother died. So we're at 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and I'll turn the planets back on as well. So what's interesting, what happens here? So he turns 12, and I was looking at this and, there's not much that is powerful enough to say the death of the mother. However, we go forward again 2 months. I think it's 2 months, just about. We can go forward another couple of days. The ascendant changes sign. And Saturn begins to rise. And if you remember well, this is a nighttime chart, which means that Saturn is really bad, terrible even, okay? So let's get a closer look at this. Saturn, the ascendant, 0, 0 Virgo. Saturn, 650 Virgo. Right at the time of his father's death. His mother's death at the age of 12, after the age of 12. Pretty crazy, right? This is what Saturn usually does. It in powerful places in the nighttime, it kills parents. It can kill the native even. But yes, this is not uncommon, especially with a drastic change, like a change by sign. Change by sign will happen more or less once every 30 years. His ascendant's a bit later on, so it happens earlier, but this is the general rule. So it's rare. It happens, 3 times in your whole life. So it's a very powerful shift. So this is very, very, very interesting stuff here. I can't remember if there was any. Oh yeah, I think if we go forward, so it's 12, 14, oops, that's days. Let's go forward another 2 years. So 14, 16. Look what happens here. So Saturn's on the ascendant, more or less. So there's some problems that are coming up here. I don't know 100% the details of this period, but look, Mercury conjunct with the IC. This gives writing, creativity, big projects, big travel, always travel, changes of the living situation generally. And of course, this is the age of about 16. So he's graduating school. And his education, because we know he's a scholar and all these things, was massively important to him. Huge thing. So this primary direction of Mercury is very powerful and right where it should be. And I believe at this time he would have gone, also he would have graduated high school and entered university around this period. This maybe in the next 12 months or so here. But at the same time, Saturn comes to the ascendant as well. So let's see, what's this date? This is interesting. He comes to the ascendant in 1910. From memory, he has some trouble at this point in his life in terms of, getting entrance into university and having a scholarship. He needed a scholarship, which I don't think he got. I watched the movie last night because I needed the crash course on Tolkien. I don't know how accurate it is, but something like this. He had some trouble. We can see it in the chart anyway. He definitely had some trouble. And this can also be health problems. And we can see, when will this health problem manifest? So Saturn's on the ascendant here. However, it's not visible in the sky yet. We can have a guess. When does it become visible in the sky? It needs to be about 4 degrees above the ascendant, which is somewhere here between 1915 and 1916, or 1917 even. He was in World War I. He went there a year after it started, so 1915, and got horribly sick in the trenches. He got trench fever and had to be sent home. And he was horribly sick for the whole rest of the war, whilst Saturn is here rising above the ascendant. The ascendant is health. It's your health and well-being. So there you go. Boom, the power of primary directions. And then we can see the sun. Look, the sun comes to the IC here. So some kind of, I wonder, I haven't really looked at this yet, but probably some good stuff happened here. Acquisition of property or, some inheritance, I don't know. I need to do more research, but anyway, that is the gist of this. Analyzing a chart with ancient astrology. It's on another level. It's really on another level. And the magic is so unbelievably profound. I am in love with this science. It's got to be my favorite thing in the whole cosmos. Yes, it's just so divine. It is the divine science, and the way we're doing it in modern times, like I don't have any problem with people doing it the way they're doing it. It's just that we need more honor for the real way of doing it. We need to bring back this ancient way. And all of you need to be involved. You need to be out. You should go out, look at the sky. Looking at the sky, you'll start to notice there's Venus in the evening, and then eventually you won't see her there. So you wake up early and you see her in the morning, and you start to see the sky and make this connection with God, with the crystal sphere, actually. And this will revive the ancient living science of the stars, which is both a science and an art and a philosophy. And it is the master of all of those fields, every single one. So I hope that was a blessing for you and it finds you well. And I hope this inspires you to dive into some new techniques. There's a lecture on my website, which is the Sacred Degrees of Hermes, where I give about an hour and a half talk on these sacred degrees and what they mean, what they do, and some chart examples as well. So I thank you all for staying with me, and I'll see you soon. Peace.